Sri Bahadur, welcome.
Thank you.
Um, we're here again to continue our discourse and exploration of the Arcline year 2022. And we were just talking about spring, and spring is sprung. And, here it's the 31st today, so tomorrow starts our April cycle, and that's going to be a 4 in yogic numerology. And I have to say, I made a commitment to myself to be more dedicated to coming to class at least once a week on Tuesday nights, and it's made such a huge difference. But um, it's been a lot of work um, these last couple few months. So I don't know if you can kind of touch on some of that too, but I'm sort of looking forward to um, transitioning from 4 because 2 and 3 were both um, um, some hard, not hard analysis because I've really been working on, talk about Sahaj, and I've been working on ease with myself, ease in my life, but examining first the negative mind, which, like, what a trip that was. And then the projective mind, which was another huge opportunity to, like, look at myself and realize the giant garbage pile of stuff that was still unprocessed. Um, so yeah, thank you for such amazing work, and the opportunity to work with you alongside you on this amazing journey of life that we're all currently on. But also, wow.
Uh, well, it's true, and it's true for a lot of us on doing this work on this path. So, thank you for the feedback and for walking with me on this journey. But yeah, the like the good news, bad news of what we're doing is, yes, the good news, we get to refine our sensitivity and refine our ability to project and bless in this arc-line year. But uh, the bad news is there are things to deal with and consider as we refine our sensitivity, and as we allow ourselves to expand and become more sensitive, then all the things that we've been carrying around kind of poke out of their little hiding places within the body, the emotions, the mind, and the etheric space. But I think what we'll get into this coming month when we're looking at neutral mind is, okay, can we really become neutral? Can we be allowing? And can we rely on something besides the mind to clear our space, our mental, emotional, and etheric space?
Mm.
And a lot of times we think, well, I got to do this work. I gotta sift through it, and I have to solve it, and I have to come up with my strategies, and then notice if I'm being successful or not. And the masters across disciplines are saying, hey, yeah, it may seem like you're doing, but in reality, it's the divine that does all the doing. And we can make that easier or more difficult depending on what we decide to own, and how we choose to define our identity, and whether we want to include divine creative impulses and wisdom within our practice. Because that life force, that universal consciousness awareness that we call the divine or source, just holds everything in equilibrium, and that equilibrium settles down through the dimensions,
Mm.
and eventually gets down to where we are. But the thing of it is, can we reach beyond this dimension? Because if I just try to move things in this physical realm, or even within the mental aspect of this third dimension that we're aspiring out of, um, I'm spending a lot of energy in moving things around, instead of just coming into the Garden of Shuniya, planting a seed, and handing it over to the wisdom of life to express it. I'm just, okay, I'm going to pull that weed, I'm going to pull that weed, and I'm going to figure out, okay, what's the fertilizer composed of, and what's the insecticide composed of, and can I move this over there and that over there? And either way is fine. You got to do something while you're here. You might, you know, the, uh, there's really no right way, no wrong way, because, if we're looking to please the divine, that's like, forget about it. This, it's not even an option. It's not even called for. So um, this space of invoking a meditative state, invoking Shuniya, just seeing the creative space as a garden, and visualizing the seeds that we can plant in that garden, in that space of stillness. What do I want? What am I fabricating, and what am I interpreting out of fear? When false evidence appearing real. Okay, that looks like that. It smells like that. Is it really that? And that's what we have to decide. Because the more I define it, the more it conforms to my expectation. And I think that's the key. How I look at things, how I define things, how I perceive things defines how the universe is going to express to me. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've 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 started decreasing different activities. It's like, instead of reacting to the talking heads or even watching them very much, I'm just going, yeah, no, because I can sit there and I can go, my BS meter goes up, and so I go, okay, and where do I want to put my energy? What do I want to think, see, say, and experience in the life? So as we resist that war or that situation or that oppression, um, we make it more real for ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. I think so much from what you said. It was it was like ping, 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 ping. So many things that have been themes, over the last few days, weeks. And one of them is the mental projection of order and control, and how we sort of, as like the little I, right? We're like sort of trying to create this order out of chaos, and not, when we get into thinking mind, then we're sort of disconnected. Not that we're ever really disconnected, but at some illusory level inside of our own heads, we're disconnected from like the greater order. Like we're lacking in this like trust and connection to recognize that, hey, there is actually a much larger dynamic, multi-dimensional order that like you and your little brain, like you will never understand. And so there's like lots of themes of surrender and trust, and also recently about like projecting beyond my sphere of control, like being activated in a way that is actually sort of destructive to my own potential. Like if I'm really worried about the war in Ukraine, which of course, like as a caring person, it activates your care and your concern for, we don't want war anymore. Most people don't want war.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have cognitive dissonance around that. But it like zooms us out of our small sphere of control, which is what's happening with my mind, body, spirit system, what's happening in my family system, what's happening in my extended family friends systems, and what kindness and compassion could I actually affect positive change in my world? Because beyond just universal prayer and heart projection of loving kindness, I don't really have any influence over Ukraine and what's going on there. And so getting wrapped up in those big, big, big problems, it really kind of robs me of the potential that I have. And we have such a small amount of time here. I think people, um, I think that's something worthy of note to say that, hey, you only have so much time. We don't really know. So you might as well stay in your, not to stay only in your own garden and not worry about the rest of the world. But if you're not worrying about and tending your own garden and you're over there worrying about the rest of the world, then, that seems like a little bit of an imbalance to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean that as a judgment necessarily, but an observation of like a past version of myself and some of what I see, how people are interacting with this and allowing that fear to then activate things like apathy and abandon and loss of power and loss of autonomy. Um, because then it's like, well, what does it matter what I do if I can't help people who are really suffering?
Yes. Well, um, in answer to that, and in considering that, one of the principles that seems to be bearing out is, yeah, we are light particles magnetically aligned, influenced by brain waves or by thought. And so, um, how how we align with our brain waves and sending those thoughts uh, to add momentum to the solution of problems can be significant, especially as more of us do so. I see every once in a while I go on to Facebook and I'll be looking at posts and somebody will be presenting a problem and somebody else will say, I'm sending love and light and prayers to you. And then somebody comes up, yeah, sending love and light and prayers is one thing, but what are you really doing? And then I go, well, you're doing the thing that has the most effect, because your brain waves do align the creative patterns of the realm where we are, and you can't force anybody to do anything. You can try, and it may look like you force, just like it looks like we're stopping this kind of terrorism, that kind of terrorism, and that, but trying to coerce people into aligning with our values usually just breeds some kind of resentment. So the idea is, okay, how can I add my thoughts in a cohesive and comprehensive way that builds a momentum towards peace, towards harmony, towards the space of establishing dialogue and coming to mutual understandings. And yeah, and that's what we'll be working with April 7th and 14th, establishing harmony, looking at that space of Shuniya and say, okay, where am I applying resistance and where am I engaging in that space of Sahaj, easy acceptance of who I am, not supposing that I need to be something different than who I am or where I am right now. It's all perfect, it's like I've attracted all the facets of my life, okay, well, what, and that's what we're finishing up tonight is, okay, and adjusting my mindset and my perceptual set, where am I helping myself and where am I resisting myself? So I tell you what, it's going to be busy over the next, I don't know how many months, it's just, or years, we don't know. But
I use this analogy in my work as an embodiment coach and for my own process as well. It's like, there's years and years, and if you go back into the ancestral idea, there's actually, eons of trauma in the blood and in the body, and we're sort of carrying this, we've been carrying this. And I think it has become, at least in the Western culture, there's a tendency to like, oh yeah, like, snap your fingers and say yes, and it's just gonna, you could be different. It's this instant cure kind of a thing. And I do believe, I 100% believe that you can change your mindset in an instant and your life will start to change. I mean that, but also, we are, uh, I'm a material girl and I'm in a material world, and, there's a process to things. And so I think in that, the course of having these dialogues and sort of running out these narratives to their obvious conclusion of, okay, well, what do we really want? Like, do we really want to be in war? Do we really want to be in suffering? Do we really want to be stuck in polarity and constantly arguing with each other and, pick a side because that's part of your identity? If you're not on one side or the other, then who are you? And I think that that's an interesting um, thread there also, because I think when we start talking about the neutral mind and Shuniya, I think there's, for those who have practiced extensively, we understand that this idea of balance is, a staging platform for everything else that's going on. It's not a necessarily a fixed point or perfect picture that's this sort of, you know, death or whatever, death of the ego, or a frozen moment of eternity. That's a process. But I think for many people who are either new to practice or new to meditation or sort of new even to these types of conversations, um, that the idea of neutrality is either like a weakness or um, a loss of identity, right? Um,
Hmm. Hmm. Yes. Yes. Um, and again, that's good news, bad news, because yeah, you do become a little lighter when you refuse to identify with something that's not working, or something that uh, or identifying with anything. I myself, I'd rather insert my identity into virtues and values rather than resistance and problems, and that's why um, um, when I'm looking at what's coming in to my realm, I just kind of, the idea is to, okay, what's the message here? Because if someone is playing the fear card, oh, you got to do this. I'm always watching out for you because this could happen. As soon as the fear card is played, you have to uh, be aware. It's okay. How much is the solution to solving that fear situation, right? And there's a lot of that going on. There's fear about, are you practicing the right religion? Are you in the right political system? Or what's the color of your skin? Well, all of these things that we're applying so much constriction to and so much judgment over is just like, wow. Well, if you want to keep doing that, you just have to carry that weight. And like you were saying, with the weight of ancestry and those patterns having been installed, the idea, and I think yoginis and yogis, people that have a practice, and people that meditate and contemplate and really bring consciousness to what they're doing and what they believe, how they react with life, have the ability to neutralize all that weight from the past. And it just happens where, when we're in the shift of the age, when we're in the shift from out of third dimension into fifth dimension, um, that there's a possibility for enough people to get together to heal that and to make this giant leap. But that doesn't mean that everybody is going to buy into that process. And so my my gaze and my interest lies in, okay, is everybody finally going to make this decision, or are some people going to make it and some people not? And what happen? How do you balance both of those realms?
Yeah.
So we'll get to see. And but the idea is, you know, you already are the person that you want to be. You know, it's just there.
Yeah.
You know, you are the soul is already um, part and parcel of divine consciousness and awareness, and just I think just like a self-taught golfer has to unlearn different facets of how he's interpreted the swing. It's like to get better, you just have to forget some things. You have to just let go and let everything be natural. And yeah, it's fun. We'll see where we go, what we do. But in the meantime, becoming still. That's the latest message is awareness, consciousness originates in perfect equilibrium, and that's universal spiritual consciousness. You know, it's like we have no idea what it is. We can't grasp any part of it at this point because we haven't learned that language. But you know, we can look for the portal into that space, and that portal is Shuniya. Wow, rambling.
Wow. Yeah, I like the sort of analogy of, that this is a garden, a laboratory, an experiment, and that we don't really know. And that's, to go back to some of our previous discussions and my own personal, one of my favorite topics, the teaching and the wisdom of Shiva is to be constantly pushing into the unknown and recognizing that whatever it is that you assume of as known is actually more unknown to you because you assume you know. And so having that sense of um, equanimity for all things to say, well, this is the garden, this is the lab, and the best thing that I can do is, be compassionately unattached, and try to reach into that, who is the watcher? Who is that person inside of me that is observing and observant of all things and not, taking the role of judge or the role of the injured person or the victim or the perpetrator or whatever, because we all shuffle through these different roles. And I think, yeah, I think I agree with you. It'll be interesting. And the more and more people who can start to lean into this space and reach into that equanimity and equilibrium space and the strength of not knowing and holding space and not knowing and saying, maybe I don't know myself as well as I thought, and maybe there are things about me that I can let go of that aren't my personality. Maybe I'm not an irritable person. You know, maybe I'm not as um, consistently virtuous as I pretend I am to myself, or whatever it is. Because just like you're saying, we have just as many positive projections as we do not so positive projections, and all of that is a story that we're sort of telling ourselves. And um, for me, like Sahaj, part of Sahaj is going, okay, like whatever, I don't actually know, and maybe I misstepped, and maybe I said something that I didn't really want to say, and it wasn't the most elevated thing I could have said, but I'm human and I don't know. I'm here just digging in the dirt and like trying to do my best right now. Um, so, that's helped me also dial back, on some of that. Because I think, people who have been in our world, the yoga, especially the Kundalini yoga world, you start to kind of hold yourself up to these high standards at times. And the problem with that is that if you hold yourself up really high, that there's a chance that you're going to fall. And then there's a whole sort of, God and the devil dynamic that you're like playing out with yourself in your head, which is, again, a false reality. Um, yeah. So I was also thinking about, I liked what you said about fear. And today I had this thing about revelation, right? What's a revelation? A revelation is something that reveals, right? It like pulls back the illusion and reveals the truth. And the reason why a revelation feels the way it feels, your your somatic field responds to revelation because you know at every cell of your being that you're hearing and understanding something that's true. Um, and it cuts right through all the bullshit and all the illusion and drama.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I experienced that many times in your class and just in talking with you in general too. So always grateful for these chats and this time. I know that I don't know. Sorry, I was gonna say I know we'll get there, but actually I have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're just sifting through experience, and what is it's reminding me that as I set an intention to uh, calling on uh, calling for understanding from divine wisdom, you know, uh, it'll just dawn on me as I'm reacting to a particular circumstance that I attracted, and most of it's like, you know, everything should be perfect, nothing should get in my way of achieving my goal, and if something does, then it deserves my wrath. Just responding to inanimate objects, like tripping over a hose or this not working right or that not working right, and it's like now they're starting to before the reaction uh, gets more than the impulse. There's some little trigger inside that goes, notice that. Notice what you're doing. Notice the dynamic there. Is it really as serious as you're making it out to be? And then, when that happens, it doesn't happen every time, but when it happens, I go, yeah, well, no, it's not that serious. It's like, forget about it. There's room for everything. And that's the idea. There's room for everything, for being like a really uh, noticeable yogi and being the bogey, like the shadow of the yogi. But it's all just allowing ourselves to hold the space to be wherever we are, and instead of aligning with a judgment or an expectation of what somebody told us things should be like, just to go, I am who I am. That's that. Just be still, and just listen. And yeah, that was the other thing, that universal consciousness exists in this equilibrium that manifests as silence and stillness. And I'm going, whoa, that's Shuniya. The divine exists. That's the portal. It's like there's portals all over the planet.
Yeah.
And so we have that portal of the Bindi point within us, that's the wormhole to access whatever we want to access. It's like, yeah, that laboratory or that garden. So, and I so much appreciate working with you and communicating, because as we talk, as we exchange communications, it's like I read what you say and I go, that sounds awfully familiar. So it's like uh, it's fun to to be affirming one another and to unite those energies and see where it leads us, and if it leads us somewhere, it'll be contagious and lead other people as well. So
Well, thank you. I mean, what an honor, and I agree with you. It's one of the things I have been saying to myself recently is I'm in a positive snowball, and I can't even remember. This is like an old thing. I think it was like 2000s or even 90s. Someone said, some self-help guru or somebody. And it's so true, though. I mean, once you kind of make that decision and you're like, this is what I'm going to build, and this is what I'm putting my energy towards, and this is what I'm unpacking and exploring, and these are the seeds that I'm tending. And it'll start popping up, everywhere, people that you talk to and meet. And so grateful to you, and you've been holding this space and adapting this space as it's been changing through, your work with Kundalini Yoga and Yogi G and with the Christ letters and and always sort of reaching towards that unknown, unknowable, whatever that is, and making space and holding space for that and holding space for others. And um, it's a profound blessing, you know, um, and anyone that comes to work with you, um, I think experiences that and feels that. So, thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to this month and your classes and workshops. People who are interested can visit on the website. We also have an email newsletter that goes out a couple times a month with the most recent updates, and the podcast when it goes out live on YouTube. There's a link that goes out for that. And people can also follow on Facebook because we update there, as well as on Instagram. So all of those links are there down below in the description. And you can watch the other podcasts and some of our other conversations as well. So we also have some of your meditations here on YouTube, so people can check out all of those things, and lots of ways to connect. And yeah, I'm so excited for spring, and I'm so excited to see what we create in this very peculiar, dynamic, interesting soul experiment that is Earth.
yes, indeed. Yeah, me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Satnam.
Satnam.